IVM.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Raw and Organic Podcast. This is your host Kunal Rajput, and I am super excited today because I have an acquaintance who was very pricey to come in, and she has finally decided to grace us with her presence. We have Swetha Subbiah. Hi Swetha, thank you for coming.
Hi. First of all, I'm highly insulted that you call me your acquaintance. I thought we were best friends, but okay. I guess that's the new
For those of
title.
you who have no idea, Swetha and I go back a long time ago. She was literally the first person who I got intimidated in the Nike training club. She was the person who took my case when I was just 23 years old, and she was a rock star, and her presence was super intimidating, and she knew that. But all that being said, since then, I think our friendship has grown immensely, and now I can safely say she's one of the bestest friends I have in this industry and in life. So thank you.
Thank you, finally. I guess the best friend tag.
Yes. So Shweta, thank you for being a part of this. I have thanked you enough, and this is the last time I'm doing it. So if I'm doing this again, just stop me. Cool.
Done.
One thing which is super annoying, and I do this Q&A sessions every single time. And one of the most prominent question, or the most frequent question by women are like, what if I look bulky if I start working out? So
Right.
what is your response to that?
Well, I'll tell you, Kunal, it is definitely the most frequently asked question in over a decade of me being personal trainer. That is the most frequently asked question for me as well, from women. First of all, the first response to that is obviously coming from it from a very technical perspective. It's not easy for even men to get bulky, and that they have testosterone, which is right. Case in point, Kunal, you know how much you struggled, and you guys have testosterone, and that's really something that aids with that muscle building process, and women have significantly lower amounts of testosterone. So if it's hard for a man to get big, it's twice as hard, 10 times as hard for a woman to sort of gain muscle mass to that extent where she ends up looking bulky. Everyone's body type is different. If you do get a little bit of muscle, what's wrong with that? Like, there has to be, I think, a shift in the way we think about our body types. And women, why do women always have to look skinny and a certain way? It's fine for a woman to have a little bit of muscle on her, and if that means she wants to label that as bulky, so be it. But the ground truth is, it's very, very hard for a woman to gain that kind of bulk without shooting herself up with some stuff that we don't promote here. So yeah, don't worry about getting bulky. It's just much harder than you think it is.
I know, right? I mean, also, one of the primary questions that we should be asking is where did this idea come from, where women started thinking that they're going to look bulky? First of all, I think
right,
most of the people, and it's also a part of individuals not being educated enough on how muscles work, or how fat percentages work really, and what kind of workouts, what is the sole purpose of working out, why do you want to work out, and all these conversations are super important. And I think we are just having that kind of paradigm shift in terms of how we approach working out in general, and these conversations are super important. And
I think to add to that point, Kunal, I think when over a decade ago in India, at least, bodybuilding was still the very prominent type of workout regime, right? And so when you think bodybuilding, you think bulky. So then everything that happened in the gym was associated with bodybuilding. So when I came in, after my training, and I started in my gym, which was something very new, something called functional training, which has become such a widely used term now. It was different, and it was obviously different from bodybuilding type training. So it wasn't promoting that big bulky body. It was promoting functionality and movement. I think the reason why women get worried about building bulk while training is because that was the idea of going to a gym. It was a bodybuilding culture, and that was what men would go there for, is to look big. But obviously, we know that's changed so much today, and that's not the case at all. Like, you don't go into a gym to gain mass necessarily. You're going to get functionally stronger.
Exactly. And you being somebody who I know lifts pretty heavy, work out consistently and has been working on since years, and love doing bodybuilding kind of workouts, a lot more hypertrophy based workouts. And you as
Right.
a person, you have like a 18-year-old's body right now. And you are so athletic, so well defined, and literally in the best shape of your life, I must say that. And and you can be like a personification of what a good nutrition, a balanced workout regime
Yeah.
does, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you
Yeah.
are going to work out and look bulky, because that, as she said, it's extremely difficult. I have been trying to do that since years now, and I cannot gain more than 2 or 3 kgs of muscle mass a year. And
Yeah.
now that I'm getting
Right.
older, it's much more difficult to do that. It's just about the fat percentages. It's about like you not being able to consume good amount of calories or being in a deficit for a longer period of time, and your fat percentage is still at the same point. And that now that your muscles are kind of growing, it just looks a bit more heavier just because your muscles are a bit more defined now. So change the perception of whoever had that kind of problem and is listening right now. Change the perception of the
Yeah.
bulky attitude, because I don't think that is a conversation that you should be having. Because if you're in a proper deficit and if you guys
Right.
have been like working out, the only thing that you're going to see is like good amount of definition, tone, muscle mass, and really strong body. So
Yeah,
that's that.
that's right.
Oh wow,
Absolutely. Well said, Kunal.
I was frustrated.
No, I know. I can't tell you how many times I've gone over this conversation, and we go over the biological facts there, and then talk about why you should be thinking differently as far as workouts are concerned. Don't think about muscle gain, and that's not the end game, right? It's about to be functionally strong. Also, let's not forget of the other benefits mentally from just working out and getting that blood pumping through your veins. There's so many other reasons why you should be training, and not fearing the big bulky muscle when you get into the gym.
I also feel like it's more or less like one of the million excuses that you have.
Yeah,
And
right. Of course.
yeah, well, like you know what, I don't want to start
Yeah.
working out because so,
Nail on the head, my friend. Like, I can't tell you, like, they will come up to me and like, I want to start working out, but I don't want to get bulky, so I'm going to put it off for a little while. I'm like, okay, sweetheart, if it was that easy, it isn't. So you're right. It's also an excuse, very commonly used excuse.
yeah, and Indians come up with the best excuse, man. Best excuse.
Yes.
But yeah, like we're going to talk about excuses in length later. But one of
Right.
the major conversations which I really wanted to speak to you about is like you are doing, and you are more or less a pioneer in terms of like how women's fitness is like growing in this country, right? With Sisters in Sweat like doing phenomenal and like moving mountains right now, and the way
Mhm.
that the community is growing, the kind of things that you
Yeah.
guys are doing in terms of like the collaboration with Montra, the collaboration with all the things that you're doing, it's crazy to see that there was a massive amount of need in terms of
Yeah.
women's fitness or like women specific fitness.
Right. So to be very, very honest, Sisters in Sweat happened kind of by accident. Of course, the co-founder and I, Tanvi Hans and I, felt like anomalies for the most part because we were two girls who loved playing sport. Um, Even after school and college, when I had my brief stint in the corporate world with the Ernst & Young, I noticed that after work, the guys would get together and go off to play some sport or the other, whereas the girls, would either catch up for a drink or go for a movie. And I was quite keen on playing, so I would often join the boys, and I wouldn't see too many girls around me. Now, I have no problem playing with the boys at all, but I also wondered why women didn't want to play, and I obviously felt like, okay, maybe I'm just an exception. Maybe I'm a quote unquote tomboy, right? Which is not a term I like to use because it sort of puts you in a box or puts you in a bucket, which is really non-existent in my opinion. But yeah, that was the general sense that and Tanvi felt very much like that as well. That if she wanted to play football, she had to go play with the boys. So where were all the girls? Were they just not interested in playing? That was sort of the we were left with when we were sort of post college and school. And Sisters in Sweat really happened by accident. Like I said, a friend of ours requested us to do one session, and we did it as a fun thing. We thought it was a one-time thing. We expected 5 girls to show up, And we realized on that first session that 15 or 16 girls showed up. We started a
17.
WhatsApp group.
You told me
Yes,
it was
17. Okay, yes, okay. You remember better than I do. 17 girls showed up. So that immediately was like a light bulb moment for me to think, to say that girls want this. At least these 17 girls want it. So let's do it for these 17 girls. And we started a WhatsApp group, which then just exploded. And today we're over 2,000 women strong, mainly based in Bangalore. And we're doing different activities in sport. We're doing basketball. We're doing 2 levels of football. We're doing cycling experiences. We're doing a trip to the Andaman shortly for diving. So I think what Sisters in Sweat really did for me and for all the women, watching and being members of it, is just sort of debunk this whole myth that women do not like playing sports, or it's the minority. Women love playing sport. Women love to engage in that environment as well. So it was a gap in the market, I think, that we accidentally chanced upon. And that has proven to be, really, really fruitful for us from a business perspective as well.
It's clearly thriving right now in terms of like how you guys have like placed yourself in terms of that. But clearly there was a demand, and you guys like channelized all your energies into like making sure that you are giving out the best services and giving out the best experience for women in general. But is so that gap was because how predominantly how the culture is right now, how the culture has been, or like it's just because in life the difference between the way that a guy works out or a girl works is like very different. So why is there a gap, or why was there a gap earlier?
I think it was just the narrative of the time, right? Like it was assumed that guys or boys went out playing, the girls played in with the dolls. It's really, I think, dates back, and we're so hardwired in a way to believe that that's the way we are. And then, if one or two girls step out and say, hey, you know what, I like actually going out and playing, and the other girls are like, hey, you know what, I like doing that too. So it was, I think, a vicious circle. It was just feeding into an age-old narrative that women or girls like to stay indoors and play, that sort of became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think we are really sort of disrupting that narrative here with Sisters in Sweat. I know that's a pretty big stance to take, but I really feel that that's what we're doing here today. A really fun story that I like to tell is Shonali, who's one of the founding members of Sisters in Sweat. She's been playing football with us for a few years now. And her son has been seeing her, lace up every Sunday morning to get ready to come and play football with us. And one morning he actually asked his mom, Shonali, he's like, hey, do men also play football? And that's sort of mind blowing to me, in that, we could create that kind of a sense that, this is that women play football, not the men, because he only saw his mother play football. And I think the more of these stories that are told and that come out, the more the little girls see their mums playing. They're going to feel like, they're not confined to any one space. They can do whatever they want. The field is not only for the boys, it's for the girls as well to claim.
Imagine like 5 years, 10 years from now. And then like kids, Dante, if I can, Dante, right? His name is Dante.
Dante, that's right. Yeah.
Dante and everybody, like his friends, will look back on like, what? Like our parents, our grandparents used to have like separate sports, and like women did not used to work. Like, and that is the kind of change that you guys are bringing, honestly. That is like literally a revolution that you guys are bringing in. And it's so important that we are bringing in right now, like in this particular point of time, because it's so easy for this idea to catch on to younger generations.
Right.
Because you guys are also acting as coaches, you guys are acting as influencers, you guys are acting as inspirations, and you guys are like making sure that the right amount of information and the right information is going outside. So I'm like, congratulations on whatever you guys are doing, and I'm super sorry, whatever you are doing, I've been reminded.
But I have to say, Kunal, you have also been part of this journey. You've been one of the few boys that we invite in.
Yes.
That's because I always say Kunal is one of the biggest feminists I know. But yeah, I mean, it's not about excluding the boys with Sisters in Sweat. It's about bringing the girls in. And I have to give it to the boys that are also so supportive, whether they be the husbands or the brothers or the fathers of the women that play with us, or the sons, They're very encouraging of our members, and they often, I think, are very important to sort of writing this story in supporting the women uh, with coming onto the field. And when we have our tournaments, you'll see the boys out cheering as well, and that's great. I think to move, we all have to move together. It can't be just women centric. The boys need to go with us. And I have to say, in our limited experience, and of course we come from a pretty privileged part of society where we have the privilege to sort of have people go beyond those boxes of women have to play certain roles. It's a pretty open society in which we live in, and that is a privilege, I would say, for us. But I'm hoping this then has a ripple effect into societies that are less open, to sort of like open those doors for them as well.
And also, like, I personally feel that um, it's something. It's like we are not supporting; we are just getting inspired. To be honest, like I for one,
That's very kind. See, this is why I say you're the biggest feminist I know.
Because I'll tell you the story why. Because Urmi was one of the first people who I got to know personally in terms of like fitness, like functional fitness and stuff like that. I always had a perception that what work means. I had the perception of like working out was always like men work out in the gym and like all these things.
Yeah.
But when I saw Urmi doing that kettlebell certification with me, and when I saw her athletic abilities, that gave me the biggest shock of my life. I'm like, oh wow, what? These girls can actually like lift that kind of weight, perform so much, know so much, and know better than the person who's actually coaching with. And this was, we're talking about like 6 or 7 years, 8 years way back. And then because of Nike, I got exposed to 14 other women who were, if not better, but at the same line, like exactly. And that included you, that included Jyoti, Cindy, and everybody. The best trainers, the best female trainers from the entire country, and the best trainers from the entire country. And because I was just at the cusp of understanding what the entire industry is like, I got exposed to you guys and realized that, oh wow, there's so much to learn from women in general, because not only they are first of all shattering all the dogmas that are around fitness, first of all, but also making sure that they are getting better in terms of understanding what fitness is all about, performing it, and also like imparting the knowledge. And over the period of time, the exposure grew, and I just realized that, okay, you know what? In all senses, you and I have always been at an opinion that women fitness trainers and women who work out are much more hardworking, much more exposed, are much more well versed in how to transfer that information as compared to men. Because in terms of, and I don't know what it is, I haven't pinpointed why the reasons are the reasons which I have figured out. But I think it's mostly because in terms of like men, we go into this massive passive aggression based battle of like, who's the bigger person, who's the person who can lift heavier, who's the person who do this and all these, who's the bigger personality of the year. And with women, that's not the thing. With women, it's like, okay, you know what, they are very crisp in terms of like how the information is shared. They're crisp in terms of like how the communication is being developed, and that's so inspiring, right?
Women in sport and fitness at this time, is she is a different type of woman, to be honest, because to be and I'm hoping that that's not the case in the future, but to be able to make a career in sport or fitness, understand for a guy it is going to be that much easier to get there. For women, there are so many barriers before she can become established in a career in sport and fitness. I'll tell you why. First of all, obviously, she has to take that big step of breaking this little house or this little cage that she's put in, where a woman's place is not in on the field, or it's not in the gym. So that's the first thing that she has to negotiate. She has to sort of convince, whether it's her family or whoever it is around her, that I want a career in sport or in fitness. Of course, it is true, and you can see through the numbers today, women's sport is still not as popular as men's sport. In certain areas it is, and in certain fields it's not, which means, there's less money to be made there to begin with. So it's taken less seriously as a serious career. So for a woman to choose sport, to choose fitness, she is really, she has a lot of steps to take before she gets on par with a guy who has to make the same choice or chooses to get into sport and fitness. So it is a very, very driven woman, I think, who pushes through those barriers, whether it be, within her family first, and then to negotiate the fact that, I'll be honest, Kunal, when I became a fitness instructor, again, well over a decade ago, there were 35 male instructors and I was the only female instructor. Pay scales there were rock bottom, and I had left a corporate job. And everybody around me, I mean, my family is very supportive, but the general consensus was, I'm doing this as a hobby. Nobody ever looked at it as a serious career option for me. I was the only one who believed in myself at that moment, and I was the only one who wanted to do something big. But the general perception of women who take up sport and fitness is like, okay, this is something that she can do for some time, but there's nothing serious that can come of it. Obviously, that has changed over a period of time. Over the last 10 years, I've seen a massive shift, but we're still a ways to go before we can level the playing field as far as that's concerned.
And this generation has to work extra harder to make sure that they are leveling up the field as much.
Oh, absolutely. I'd like to think that we've cleared some bit of the path, but there's a lot more clearing to do.
It's a long battle, for sure. Honestly, the long.
Oh yeah. It's a long road, and it seems positive. It seems like things are changing, but yeah, you're right. It's a long road.
Yeah, but if you think of it, like even in this Olympics, the percentage of women getting the medals are much higher than the percentage of men getting medals.
Absolutely, let the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, not to say that women are better than men or vice versa. I'm just saying that we're both equally able, and until that story is out there, until people start believing it, women will always have to fight a slightly tougher battle to get to her position in the sports field or in the fitness world.
Yeah, and I see it firsthand, man. Like it's very passive. It's very passive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it all walks of life. When you're walking on the road, if you're doing something on the gym, or in the workspaces, the kind of conversations that we've had, every woman who I have spoken to has been through some kind of hardships in terms of like just surviving or just performing normal day-to-day task. And that is one thing that I think in terms of what you guys are doing, it's going to change the narrative over the period of time. Of course, it's going to take years and years and years, but eventually they will realize.
And I also have to hand it to, for me, and I can tell you from my anecdotal story, like the backing that I got from Nike was huge for a brand like Nike to recognize female instructors and then give them that platform. Really, I think did wonders for women in the fitness world in India, because looking at the fact that an Urmi, a Jyoti, or a Swetha, Garima, whoever, can be recognized by a giant brand and be backed by a giant brand, gave them the inspiration or the motivation that they needed to push forward as well. And I've had so many girls since get in touch with me and say, hey, I'm so inspired that a brand like Nike, can back you guys. How do I get there? So it becomes then something that becomes aspirational, right? And that's great. So we have to give it to these brands who are doing their part as well in leveling the playing field for the men and women.
To a point where I felt honored to be a part of that team,
right?
Because and also it might be because of the brand value of what the brand also is, and also because of our own personalities, distinct personalities, and they coming together. Like I was honestly overwhelmed when I realized that I'm going to be a part of this thing, and that was probably the best time of my life.
Definitely.
But the brand has done crazy. And again, we are not, for those of you who are listening, we are not here to the horn of this particular brand, because for me, it's not even a brand anymore. It's basically family. But Nike came out with this app, NTC, and they literally had free sessions for 2.5-3 years all over Bombay for women. who just wanted to come and work out. And it was so empowering for women at that particular time because they got exposed to the best trainers, the best coaches, and the best workout while being in a community setting and making sure that they are pushing each other. Even the Darading campaign, the Make the World Listen campaign, it kind of it leveled up women's fitness in general in this country, and hats off to the brand Kirtana, hats off to Aradhana, hats off to Lakshmi, Subbalakshmi, and everyone. Like the team was amazing.
It was really amazing, and really did wonders for women in fitness. And I mean, I looking back now, and obviously at that time you're just excited to be in Bombay doing sessions, meeting women, but looking back and realizing the impact of that over the course of 3 years, and you're right, those campaigns and stuff were huge. Like they were massive in changing the whole thought process behind women doing fitness or being part of a fitness community.
Yeah, imagine doing that when like the percentages of men in a gym was like around 80-85, and women just being 15%, and then doing something like that was like phenomenal though. Well, great step for brand. Okay, on this particular note, let's just take a small break and come back in the next 1 minute, and we are going to speak about how different is a workout supposed to be for a woman as compared to a man, and what are the different complications that, say, for example, PCOS, PCOD, and all these things that majority of the women go through right now. How do they counter how this particular thing? So we are going to speak about that in length, and let's see. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, good friend of the show, good friend of Cyrus and myself, Mangalam Mallu is on. He's the assistant editor and anchor at CNBC TV 18, and he and Cyrus discuss how the budget of 2022 affects us all. On This Round is on Me, we flipped the script as Gauri is a guest on her own show. Check it out as Kavita Rajwade, my co-founder at IVM Podcast, hosts this very special episode. On Misconduct, Ragvi and Nisha are joined by Priya Mirza. She's the host of the Longest Constitution podcast. They take a close look at the former Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. On Audio Gyan, Kedar talks to Dr. Simin Patel. She's the co-founder of the Bombay Wala Historical Works. She talks about how she picks out the most interesting stories to showcase. And on Tere Mere Raste, Kesho tells us the amazing transformation of the ravaged land of Purnapani. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
And we are back. It has been an amazing conversation with Swetha. Swetha, thank you for being so patient and answering all the questions which I'm asking. Now, is it true that women and men are supposed to be doing different kind of workouts?
From my perspective, no. There's no
Thank you.
Workouts do not have to be divided up based on your gender at all. In fact, like I said, I started my career in fitness well over a decade ago, and there were definitely more men on the gym floor, and my buddies were the fitness instructors were all men, and we all did the same workout, right? There's definitely no need for there to be a difference in the type of workouts that a man does versus vis-a-vis what a woman does. Of course, there could be times in a woman's life where her workout needs to be tweaked, and the only time that comes to mind for me is pre and post pregnancy. Of course, then there are changes to the body that one needs to take into account, and that's the only time I would assume, or from my knowledge, that the workout then would change based on your gender. But that's just really a period in your life. Besides that, of course, based on your medical condition, which really doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. You could be going through some sort of medical issues, etc. And then your doctor might say, stay away from certain movements or exercises and stuff like that. And again, that has nothing to do with your gender. So short answer, no difference in the type of workouts you do, whether you're man or woman.
Yeah, because 4 limbs.
yeah. Pretty much the same. Yeah.
But that said, largely there's no difference in terms of like how your body reacts to a certain kind of stimulus. That's it. You have to make sure that you're breaking down the muscles. You have to make sure that you're eating good food, resting well, and making them stronger. As simple as that.
Absolutely.
There's certain movements that women can include in their workout regime a lot more than men. For example, I think a lot of men don't work a lot on their hamstrings and glutes. I think we should be doing that a lot more. It looks beautiful. And also helps them lift and produce a lot more power. So that is one thing which I would.
But I would say, at the bottom line, Kunal, it's just your body type, right? And what your genetic makeup and how your body is. And of course, you can generalize to some extent. It is generally seen that women have stronger lower bodies compared to their upper bodies, which is why, a man can possibly do a push-up quicker, a pull-up and a push-up for that matter, quicker than a woman can. These differences do exist. But at the end of the day, I think in terms of what we are looking for is a functionally strong body, whether you're a man or a woman. You would have to train those muscles. So if you're weak in a certain area, you have to work on making that stronger. And while, like I said, there might be you can generalize to some extent. Again, they're generalizations. I don't like generalizations because when I get a client, I don't look at the fact whether the client is a male or a female. I look at, let's do a functional screening and see where your weaknesses lie and let's work on that. And the truth is, sometimes you will see that women have a certain functional deficiency and men have a certain functional deficiency in general. But it could also not be true in certain cases. And that's why I would say don't come at training from a gender perspective, come it from an individual perspective.
What's with people coming up with women only training, this thing? Or
women only workouts? Yeah.
Workouts
This is the fitness industry. It's very much fad driven. It uses, absolutely. If it's a fad, we'll jump on it and, it's a marketing ploy really. But the bottom line is there's nothing specific. Well, do women like certain types of workouts more than others? I mean, that could be the case, but the fact is, functionally, no, we shouldn't be, segregating our workouts based on our gender. Absolutely not.
I can totally trust Indian industry to come up with bald people only.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That'll be the next thing. If you're bald, this is the workout you should do. Has nothing to do with anything.
Training.
Right, absolutely.
Even for that's only training. That is proper
really.
Indian way of
really honestly, the kind of type marketing tricks I've seen in the industry, I think we're the kings and queens of gimmicks in the fitness industry, and we should be really, really careful about falling prey to these gimmicks.
Yeah, but there are certain things, for example, PCOD and PCOS. That is something that is very, very, very common in females in this country right now, I think. How do you counter that in terms
again
changes?
So of course, I would say, again, it's an individual thing, right? Of course, women are today more than ever. I don't know if we're testing more or what it is, but a vast majority of women are diagnosed with these conditions like PCOD, PCOS. And yes, there is a specific type of training that you want to do. I mean, it's not vastly different again. And also it does depend on the individual. If she's very, very overweight, I can't say, okay, now go start running 10 kilometers. That's not going to work. So you have to look at the individual, no matter what the condition is first. But you're right. There is a particular condition, whether that condition is PCOS in a woman or something else in a man. You need to take that into account while designing a training program. Yeah. And I don't want to say what that type of training will look like, because again, it has to be based on the individual and their current fitness levels, their exercise or medical history, etc.
But largely the training, the way that you train your body remains the same. There's nothing new that you're going to be doing.
Absolutely. I would say, blanket statement, the training doesn't change drastically at all. Yes, there are tweaks you can do to your training program. Maybe you do a little bit more of this, or cut back on some of that. But by and large, it's not a vastly different training program. So just because you have a condition like this, it doesn't mean like, okay, now you got to stop training and you have to find somebody who specializes in PCOS, because that's not like anybody can, handle that. Anybody with some basic training knowledge should be able to handle the condition.
And similarly, in terms of like women in periods also, that is one thing. It also depends on people to people, because whoever I have been training, they have their own preferences in terms of like some individuals cannot work out while they're sitting, and some individuals really like feeling better and lighter when they are periods. So that also
absolutely right, Kunal. With the period menstrual cycle, there is a lot of research currently being done on whether or what type of training you do through your cycle. Again, I'm going to go back to my anecdotal experience because the reason I'm going back to my anecdotal experience rather than citing a paper, because the research is not yet conclusive. They're still doing a lot of research on it. But from my anecdotal experience, there are women who can work through their period, sometimes perform better during their period. Some women just cannot. The pain is quite immense. So again, it's an individual preference in my experience, or individual need and type of training. So I would say at this point, given that the evidence and the research is not yet where it needs to be for us to have conclusive proof of this is the way you should be training through your period cycle. Of course, there is some information out there which we can use. But again, I feel like this is so subjective, because between me and my friend that, I train with, like, I am good through my period, and once in a way I'll have a bad period and I can't train, But for the most part, I'm good. And I've played sport through my life. I've played professionally as well. And my period has never stopped me. But at the same time, I've had women in my team who just cannot even get off their bed when they're on their period. So it's really, I think, subjective to the individual. And I am looking forward to the research that is currently being done to see what results that they come out with.
That kind of like answered a lot of questions for a lot of other people and myself. And one last thing. Supplementation and stuff like that. Say, for example, a lot of women still feel that need supplements. And other supplements, for example, creatine for that matter, is something that they should be like venturing into, because that would harm their body in a different way altogether. And I personally feel that supplements are important if you are living in this country and you're eating the food that is produced in this country, because it's nutritionally not that dense, and you need to make sure that you are having a good amount of macronutrients in your system if you are following a good amount of structured programs and like that. So I really recommend women, men, to have a good amount of supplementation in their system. So where do you stand in terms of?
So my stance on this is I come at this from the perspective that I'm a fitness instructor, and I don't have the in-depth knowledge of a nutritionist to advise you on what supplements you might or might not require. I do believe that we are lacking in a lot of basic nutrients that our body requires. And I think we have to have a thorough understanding of what those shortcomings are as far as our nutritional needs are concerned. And the only way to get that is through a nutritionist. So I always recommend, when somebody asks me, of course, I can give you broad guidance on what your diet should look like. But as far as supplementation is concerned, I always refer to a nutritionist to, one, understand what your current diet is and to understand where you might be sort of lacking, and then for them to recommend what the right type of supplement for you is. I think otherwise, we become like, we're fitness instructors, and we can give you some information based on our knowledge and to some extent experience. But I think nutrition is a completely separate and specialized space, and I don't want to take the job of a nutritionist, and I really don't have the the in-depth knowledge or the qualification to give you, to tell you, Kunal, you need to take X, Y, and Z. That's my opinion. Although some instructors have more nutritional advice and they've studied a little bit more in that field, and they would be able to sort of advise you there. But yeah, you're absolutely right that in general, we are living in this country, in this city, we lack a lot of the nutritional needs that our body requires. Yeah.
Now, for me, it's just about convenience, right? Because I'm not going to include a lot of meat in my normal diet. I stay with my parents, and of course, they follow a strict structure of like alternate days of like meat eating. Because Monday, is focused on like a different date altogether. Saturday or different date altogether. Thursday is also something. It's literally
and that's true of most households in this country. There is some sort of like customary based or ritual based. They follow that bases their diet on those things. So yeah, we are definitely, there's no question about it. I think the jury's out on the fact that we are lacking nutritionally, and that supplementation is probably required. But then again, I would just go back and say, speak to your nutritionist or speak to an instructor who has that knowledge.
Yeah, and individuals don't realize that it's so important to get consultation from a professional. Because, I mean,
because there's Google, Kunal. Google is,
like this entire ecosystem is, I should get all my information for free. If I'm not getting my information for free in terms of something simple, I think I'm being robbed. As
absolutely, simple. I think the fitness industry is still sort of has a ways to go in establishing ourselves as a very, very serious. I mean, we're not yet at the level of doctors, and no disrespect to doctors. Obviously, they're doing a very, very important job, but on the preventive side, which I think is equally important as the curative side. Like, obviously, you want to make sure that you don't have to get to the point where you need to see a doctor, right? And so if you want to make sure of that, you need to work on your fitness. And that's what we are doing, is making sure that on the preventive side that you don't have to get there. So I think it's equally important that, you go to a qualified person, and there is a price to be paid because this person has, spent or invested in getting the knowledge. And it's a very, very important job, as a lot of jobs are. But when we're talking about this particular industry, when we look at it in its holistic point of view, there is the preventive side, which is what the fitness instructors and the nutritionists to a large extent are working on. And then there's the curative side, where the doctors and, again, nutritionists come into play as well. Both are equally important. And if you ask me, you want to make sure you don't want to get to a point where you have to see a doctor, right? And that's exactly the point of healthy living.
Exactly. If you can teach your children that prevention is better than cure, you have to understand that you have to start preventing yourself from.
Yeah. And I think it's about time that people, took the fitness industry and fitness instructors as seriously as they do doctors.
Yeah. And also, I feel, Swetha, that in this country, the entry barrier is so negligible in terms of
absolutely, and that is one of the big reasons, I suppose, and understandably so, right? Like I said, when I was manager or at the gym that I started off with, the criteria really was like a very basic certification, which was a one-day thing, and all boiled down to, what did you look like? Did you have the big muscles?
Yeah.
Then come on in and become an instructor, right?
Exactly.
And obviously today, that's definitely changing. I got certified in the UK, and you could not enter a gym until you finished that basic certification, which was almost Australia, the North America in general, I think, is really, really ahead as far as fitness is concerned, and they take that profession very, very seriously. And I'm hoping, and I'm sure that in time, India too will understand the importance of this space.
Right now the scenario is my cousin was working out, and now he's a fitness trainer, and now
exactly. Or you're a model and then you become a fitness instructor. So many models in Bangalore have become fitness instructors with a
good amount of following, it's an influencer model, and
because that's the thing, right? I think the qualification to become a fitness instructor in this country was, okay, do you have the body for it? And it doesn't matter that maybe genetically you just got a little lucky, but if you have the body for it, you qualified, right? But yeah, that's definitely changing. And not only do you need to have the body for it, but you also need to have the knowledge, hopefully.
How has fitness industry treated you in the last 10 years? It's been a decade for you in this industry?
It's been well over a decade, actually, Kunal. I won't disclose my age right now.
19, she has been coaching since 9 years old. Like that is
so I'll tell you my experience in the fitness industry, and I feel like, again, I come from a little bit of a privileged position where people were very, very accepting of what I was doing. From my immediate family and friends perspective. But when I first became an instructor, and I said that I was the only female instructor among 35 male, large muscled, big muscled male instructors, obviously I was not taken that seriously. It was a bodybuilding culture. And I know people were sort of like sniggered and said, what is she doing here? I mean, is she going to be are we using her as a dumbbell? Is that why she's here on the floor, right? So there was a lot of doubting, a lot of like, let's see if she can even get one client, or all her clients are obviously going to be women. And in the course of, I think, the first 3 years or 2 years really of that since I started, I was able to change that, and people took me very, very seriously as an instructor. And obviously after the Nike gig, things changed dramatically for me. So I think overall, things went quite well for me in terms of navigating the whole space, despite it being massively male dominated. But yeah, like I said, also come from a position of privilege in that people accepted what I was doing. I mean, I did have to prove myself within the fitness fraternity, where it was all boys. It was an all boys club. But yeah, and definitely, like I said, the Nike gig did wonders for me in people taking me seriously as a fitness instructor. And then, of course, post, I don't know, lucky draw or something like that.
It's literally, that is literally the most asked question, right? And there's no answer to it. Like I don't think so there's an answer to it, right? Or like, because it's literally like, how do you become a Nike athlete then?
Exactly.
Like choose you.
Nike has their own magical way of finding you and inviting you to the camp, and then if you survive the camp, and don't ask me how they pick you. I have no clue.
Yeah, because for me it was like I have no idea even till now, like how they picked me up. I think I was a recommendation from Urmi, but I'm sure that she recommended a lot of other people, and there were like a lot of different people in that particular bracket. And somehow during that filtration process, I got selected, and that procedure took 7-8 months, nicely. And then I got exposed to Miss Swetha Subbiah as one of the counterparts during the trainer seminar, out of which they selected only 3, and which was
I mean, it was quite a strenuous process. So I had recommended Jyoti, but you're right, I had recommended other girls as well, and I'm not sure what their process was to finally narrow down to, she's the one that we will invite to the camp. I know they do a fair bit of research to really understand not only how qualified you are, but also your story and your journey, because I think that was also equally important to picking the right mix of people for this position.
Yeah, and the reason I'm speaking to you about this is because a brand will only pick you up if you were doing the same thing. If the brand wouldn't pick you up, I think.
Yeah.
That makes more sense, right? It's
right. I mean.
At least with Nike that we know. But the reason why we're having this conversation is also because women in fitness industry right now are as much, I think I see the same amount of women fitness trainers as much as I see men fitness trainers right now. And that's speaking of something, right?
That's honestly the best news ever, Kunal, because I think that is what we're really trying to do, right? Like jobs should not be based on gender, especially a job as a fitness instructor. Perhaps there are other jobs there, I'm not sure. I don't know which ones they are, but as far as fitness instruction is concerned, I don't think it needs to be gender-based at all. And like I said, from where I started being the only female instructor on the floor to now walking to gym spaces that have equal number of female instructors, right before my eyes, I've seen this change. and I feel so sort of privileged to have been part of that movement in some way, and gone through the motions, and really feel so much joy at seeing what the changes have taken place over the course of this decade.
And also, like, I feel inspiration plays a massive role in terms of like how a person would look at the trainers or the coaches, right? And
Yeah.
women themselves are so inspiring, not only because physically they are doing things which are like much better than what men are doing right now, but also like the backstory, the journey that they have had.
Yeah.
That subconsciously this particular individual has fought so many battles in order to reach where she is right now, that puts you in a different mindset altogether, and that is very subconscious. And that's why I feel that women should really venture into this particular industry, because clearly you have an upper hand in terms of like how you are being perceived, because whatever you are doing is phenomenally challenging, and that is something that only some individuals can do. The other thing is, women themselves look up to different women and they feel comfortable being trained by different women. So I think the entire industry is like very welcoming to women trainers, and I really feel that.
And I think that's part of the Sisters in Sweat story as well, Kunal, because initially it was Tanvi and me who were the coaches. We were female coaches. The other girls could not only relate, but could also get inspired by the fact that, hey, we're females and we're doing this and we're your coaches. Because, through school and college, all my coaches were men. And, even when I became a fitness instructor, there was no other female instructor for me to connect with, or to just sort of look up to and say, I want to become like her, in the next 10 years. And it's only for me personally after the Nike gig that I met, for example, Jocelyn, I met Urmi, I met Marie, and I was like, wow, okay, there is a clear path here for me. Before that, you were like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I should be here.
Maybe I should leave. Like a Jocelyn and a Marie who was like killing it and like literally.
Absolutely. And then you get exposed to Utah Lee, Holly, and God knows who, and you're like, oh my God, okay, I'm where I need to be, kind of thing.
Utali is somebody who like
both of us are secretly crushing on Utah Lee. Not so secret,
but yeah, you should follow her. She was the Nike master trainer for China.
Hong Kong, no?
Yeah. Oh,
Hong Kong, I think.
Now China.
Oh, the same thing, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, it has been a journey, and I feel like most of the most influential individuals in my life have been women in terms of training, in terms of anything in general, and including you, Swetha. So thank you for playing the role that you have played in my journey, and like thousands of other women's and men's journey that you have played. It's phenomenal.
And thank you too, Kunal, because like I said initially, I think Kunal is in many ways the biggest feminist I know, but also so encouraging. And I've watched Kunal's journey, obviously, from when he came into the Nike camp to where he is now. And I think he's been so incredibly inspiring. He's been so nurturing to the women. The women relate to Kunal as well, because like when I think of Kunal and the journey he's had and how humble he's been, and how like I said, I use the word nurturing again, because sometimes in a space like this as well, you want to feel equal to the boys because it is a boys club. And Kunal has gone out of his way to not only make you feel equal, but also make you feel like, oh, that's, you're someone I look up to. And that's an incredible feeling for me as an instructor. And, he's motivated so many women within the Sisters in Sweat community as well. I know the girls just love Kunal. They look up to him, not just for his good looks, but also because he is a really down-to-earth guy who really motivates the ladies just as much as he does the boys.
Thank you so much. That made my day, and I'm going to keep listening to this part of the podcast. I'm from different profiles, so the views keep on climbing.
No, but you really have. You really have played your path. You have played your path, my friend.
But the pedigree has been amazing, and I don't think so. anybody's pedigree could have been that beautiful. If you have to like look back my journey, I think you, Jyoti, Urmi, Cindy, Garima, Nike, in all their presence have literally made me the person who I am right now, and that has been imparted to all the people who I coach in a lot of different ways. And I think it also comes from a genuine sense of looking up to you guys. And realizing that how much you guys have gone through and how much you guys go through every single day to be where you are. And it's honestly inspiring. And the reason I'm saying the entire gone through and go through process is because I know that every single day there is a subconscious battle that you have to fight here and there in order to be who you are. And that is crazy, right? So it's thank you for being this person. Thank you for coming over here in this show. And I am super happy that we could have this conversation. I really hope that women particularly take a lot out of this conversation, and I really feel they are going to do that. And men, do your job. Like just make sure that you
like I always said, Kunal, like I definitely feel like there's a lot that the women can take out of this conversation, but equally for the men, because I think, like I said, we have to move together to make things change, to bring about change. We need. It's not a women's movement. It's not a men's movement. It's a societal movement, and societal movements are made out of men, women, and everything in between, right?
And it's not, you're not moving mountains, honestly.
No,
it's
just opening your mind, opening up your mind a little bit.
Exactly.
Which can be harder for some people than others, I suppose. But
but whatever, they have to do what they have to do. And you guys are not stopping. You girls are not going to stop anytime soon.
We're not.
That said, thank you. This was an amazing, raw and organic conversation with Swetha Subbiah. Swetha, how do we reach out to you?
Well, you can get in touch with me through my Instagram account, which is SWETHA or I guess you could even drop me an email, which is Swetha@sweatbyshwetha.com.
Yeah, or you can just like just go through my profile every second picture.
All that and more pictures coming up after this weekend.
And she also has for women in Bangalore and now in Bombay, I think very soon.
Yes, very soon.
You should look up to this community called as Sisters in Sweat.
sistersinsweat.in is the Instagram handle.
We are going to put up all the links, and we are going to make sure that you go through. But these girls have offline sessions, basketball, football, cricket, workouts, yoga, dance, trips, and so on and so forth. It's super empowering, super amazing, and plus these girls party like there's no tomorrow.
That's right. It's a delicate balance of sport and partying in our community.
It's over once but that's Swetha Subbiah, and thank you for coming on this show. It was such a delightful conversation. I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Kunal. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having this very important conversation and bringing light to so many issues that need to be spoken about. And thanks for being part of the change.
You're welcome. I'm going to see you super soon.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. And individuals who have stumbled upon this conversation, my name is Kunal Rajput. You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @settle.strength. And that is it. See you. Bye.
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa Paisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.
We know you love fast food,
fast fashion,
faster payment,
lightning fast internet speed.
Then why not fast information?
on Think Fast, where we discuss the latest developments in the world of technology, business, marketing, pop culture.
With a side of sarcasm and my dad jokes, not just mine.
Not mine, Varun. My jokes are funny. So join me, guys, the funnier one, Suchita Salvan, co-founder of LBB.
And me, Varun Dugirala, the co-founder of The Glitch, as we think fast only on the IVM network.
Fresh episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.